Hi guys, Chess Learning for Life back with another video. Today I got another interesting game, a rapid game that I played that I want to share with you. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. I'm the black pieces. Game started as a Queen's Gambit decline, very normal. And I went for this b6 variation. So why do I go for b6? Because in this kind of structure, the light square bishop on c8 is the bad bishop, the worst piece for the black camp. Especially because white delays the exchange. Delays the exchange, so my bishop doesn't get a good diagonal right here. And furthermore, it's blocked by its own knight. So the bishop finds a good home on b7, and maybe after some central breaks and some tension release, then this bishop would be very useful on this diagonal. Or even if the center doesn't open up, it's still a good bishop to like defend d5 and maybe support later knight e4. So bishop e7 here. Taking back with the pawn is fine. You keep control of e4. But then I wanted to open up the diagonal for my bishop, so I took the knight. And I was okay with him having the big center. This is like the Grunfeld, except there's no bishop targeting this diagonal. And I just reroute my knight here to target the e4 pawn. Here he should have maintained the center with rook e1, and then I would play c5, rook fd8, rook ac8, and try to break open the center. He should like keep his center put, because the center, like this, very flexible, controls a lot of central squares. But now after he pushes, he allows my knight to d5. Maybe his idea was to pin my knight with bishop e4 and then c5, but bishop e4 here just simply doesn't work because of knight takes c3. You can't take because the queen is hanging, so you have to do something like I don't know, like bishop back, no, like queen here. You just have sacked bishop here, and then gain back the piece like this. After block, there's put pressure on the pin piece right here. So this is what he has to see to kind of save this position. But bishop d3 is just bad. So here he went rook ac1 to protect his pawn. Is an okay move. I would have went queen c2, honestly. Queen c2 and then force something like h6. I'll show you right here. Queen c2, h6. Here's a little detail. You always want to give a check, force the king away, and then go to where you want to go. Here, just c5, unpin, and you're not scared of c4 because your knight can always hop to f4 or b4. So he didn't do that. He went rook c1 instead. So I hop my knight to f4. Here he can move his bishop like back to b1, but then I have a very strong break, f5, and then if he takes, then rook takes, and all of a sudden all the pieces are pointing at his king. The queen's ready to hop in, and if he doesn't take, for example like queen to d2, here this check is already very strong. You can't take because the knight will hang, and then like just take the knight. And if his queen doesn't move, then what do? g5, g4 is coming, and then after g4 queen h4 and kapow. So here he decides to give up the bishop, but now I just need to post my rooks down the middle and go for c5. And then here, knight e4, very good idea from my opponent. Try and sneak a knight into d6. If he can do that, then my position would be very cramped. But here I just trade it once like this to create a backward pawn right here, and then I eliminate the knight. So there is a variation that I was scared of, like knight d6, just hopping straight in, not allowing my bishop to trade it off. Well, then here I'm just up a pawn, and then I can solidify my position with bishop d5, and then I'm not worried about the c-file infiltration because I can always go for some counterplays right here. I still think white has a better chance than in the game, although the computer gives a slightly worse evaluation. But now in the game, after I successfully eliminate the knight and put pressure on the backward pawn right here, white's position is just like, it's not losing, but it's very hard to play. Now here, credit to my opponent, he generates some threats in the king side. In the king side. So here I'm forced to retreat with my queen, and here just don't blunder away the game like this. h5, locking in, and then now his other rook will come in. Now this is very scary. I think queen e7 was a necessary move to allow my rook to defend instead of my queen, because after like rook g3, I have to go rook g8, and yeah, it's just better to defend with rook than the queen right here. And if rook f3, I was thinking maybe drop the rook back, because I don't want to repeat with rook f8 and then rook g3, rook g8, rook f3, rook f8. I wanted to defend like this. So he didn't go for that. He went for queen c1, which is very strange because of one move that I think he missed. Can you find that move? So that move is rook takes e5, exploiting the pin. Now, he does have a little trick right here, but just to show you, like, I'm just up a pawn right here. If I don't go king h7 because of queen c2, but I just block with the rook, and I'm just up a pawn right here. So he won't do that. Instead, he gives the best try, which is to play rook d to g3. Now, I have a problem right here. My g7 pawn is hanging, and my rook is hanging. So, can you find the solution in this position? How to tangle all of this position? So the move is not rook to g5. If rook to g5 just takes, and if you take here, he can take on b5, and my king is actually more exposed because he always has this h6 move. And so I don't go for rook to g5. Instead, I slide it over one more square to h5. I take that pawn. So after rook takes g7, you may say that, oh, my king is very exposed now. I lost a very crucial defending pawn right here. So what's the idea behind this? The idea is actually queen h4 right here. Queen h4, and because his queen is here, he can't like tangle out with king f1, king e2, because if he goes king f1, then I just check and win his queen. So here rook h3 is forced, but now I take, and then I take the rook. So I give up my queen, but I get two rooks in return. And here in this position, I'm also up a pawn, and his pawns are very, very weak, and there's no way to like fork my rook and the kings, and therefore here it's just very, very easy play. Just take the pawns, and yeah, just take it, And then now I just solidify and even get the f2 pawn, and I just start pushing, and here he blundered because of time trouble, but it was lost anyways. Rook f3 check, and the game was done. So I hope you learned something out of this one, out of the Queen's Gambit decline from the black pieces, and yeah, how to play against the backward pawn, some defending and counter-attacking ideas. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.